echo Judge Freeh's warm greeting to Mrs. Rajavi, to those of you gathered here, but in particular to those of you listening in Berlin, in Ashraf 3, and in Iran. And to start out these very brief remarks, and they will be very brief, with reference to a recent event that was mentioned by Mrs. Rajavi and has been mentioned by others, and that is the historically low turnout in the election that was held, in quotes, the election, on Friday. That event doesn't stand alone. It's part of a trend. It's part of a trend that started shortly after the revolution in 1979, continued through the 1980s with a massacre of thousands of people after uprisings, continued into the 90s, and culminated, of course, in 2022 with the horrible murder, and that's what it was, of Masha Amini, and the uprising that followed that, including by women who are seizing the initiative. That trend of uprisings is itself not alone, because along with it is a trend of diminishing support for the regime and a trend of increasing economic distress and a trend of friction even within the regime as they struggle over the succession after the death of the unlamented Raisi. All of these trends going on at the same time. There was a great economist in the United States who once said that what can't go on forever won't. And these trends can't go on forever, and they won't, which means that you and NCRI have the responsibility to be prepared for what happens when we finish what late Joe Lieberman, a good friend of NCRI and of mine, called the unfinished business of the 20th century, that is the toppling of the Iranian regime. When that happens, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared not only with Mrs. Rajavi's 10-point plan, which is a superb outline for the day after, but there needs to be institutional support for it. Institutional support that's provided by a government that can make sure that what is in that plan is worth more than the paper it's written on. You know, the Soviet Constitution was much more extensive than the United States Constitution. It includes right to shelter and income and so on and so forth. But what they had was a government that could not support that and didn't support it and never intended to support it. You need a government, and you will have a government, that will support that 10-point plan and make it a reality. And I want to tell you that when you do that, you will have the support not only of those gathered on this stage, but all of the institutions that they represent, of the United States government and of the American people, as you bring about a new day, not only for Iran, but for the entire world. And I envy you both the responsibility and the privilege of doing that. Thank you very much.